Welcome to the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day is about appreciating every day as it comes, no matter what life throws at us. We hope that this podcast speaks to you, and if it does, please like, share, and comment. Now let's find out why today is our favorite day this week.
Well, Dave, welcome back. Today is my favorite day. We have another topic, hot topic. And of course, here at the church, I get accused of always talking about money.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But we want to take a look at it today, the difference between how we should look at it scripturally, a biblical worldview of money and finances, as opposed to a secular.
Well, and I think that what you have to do is you have to look at the problem, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is a basic business thing, guys. That's what we're going to do.
Yep.
We're going to do problem. What are the results of that problem? Yep. The solution, and what are the benefits? Yep. So anybody who's in business world understands that. So the problem, what do we got right now?
High inflation.
A lot of people in debt.
Yep. Our country's
Our nation
debt
is in debt.
Our nation is horribly in debt.
Churches are in debt. Families are in debt.
Yep.
Businesses are in debt. There's a roller coaster we've been on, and we've seen this problem before. You were talking about the 1980s.
Yeah.
Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, boy. Well,
you said something about the houses and stuff like that.
We had made a move. A company moved me from a little town in Wyoming, Rock Springs, Wyoming, to Casper, Wyoming, which is one of the larger towns in Wyoming. And we were looking to buy a house. Yes. We sold our house in Rock Springs. And some nice places, but they were overpriced because oil had taken a dump.
Okay.
It had died.
Yeah.
And people had 2, 3, 4 mortgages.
Yeah, because they thought it had all this equity.
Had all this equity, and then the equity disappeared. And the only reason some of the folks survived was that they were a little higher up on the scale.
They made a little more money.
And they were sent elsewhere, and the company bought the house and used a relocation service.
Got that.
And so that's the only reason some of them survived. Otherwise...
So you had the 1980s, you had early 1990s, especially 1990, 1991. Tanya and I were just newly married at that time. I worked 5 jobs. I couldn't get... I had 2 master's degrees. I had a master's degree at that time, 1. And I had left my job to go to seminary. Well, when the inflation... When that hit, 1990, it was bad. I went back up to Chico. Tanya and I, like I said, were newly married. I was trying to get my job back, couldn't. So I had to mow lawns, dig ditches, work for the Parks and Recreation, work for a school in the area. I was doing whatever I could to make ends meet. Right. So this is not unusual. Then you hit 2000. We hit 2000.
Yep.
When we had 9/11 take place, and you had a major problem there, right?
Yep.
Then 2008, 2010.
Yeah, 2008, 2010. Those were, I speak from personal. We bought a house in 2009 because of the pricing and all that kind of stuff. Down, and my daughter had done the same thing, only it was one of those, I can't remember what they called those funky mortgages, and they basically loaned...
The arm loans and that stuff.
And they loaned her too much money for the price of the house.
Did that a lot.
And she eventually had, I think she did a short sale on it or something like that. Yeah. Yep. And got out from under that. But yeah, we're back in the same place right now.
We are. So here we are, 2008 to 9, 10. A lot of people lost homes. We were one of them. Our church giving dropped drastically during that time. We were not prepared for it personally. And because of that, we had to short sale our home and just live wherever we could. It was bad. So, but we continued in the church, continued to do what we needed to do, worked some other jobs. I ended up doing some other things along the way. We're now coming, and now it's 2022.
Yep.
So 2022, and the generation that did not see 9/11, they saw it, but they were maybe little people at that time. 2008, they were just too young, maybe middle school, high school, or below that. And now we've had this big push on .com and all the stuff going on there, social media, all the money that's involved with all this, all the online stuff. And we're seeing the same trend. They're starting to do those mortgage things. Hey, refinance your mortgage. You were just talking about one that was really interesting.
Yeah. I really have a hard time with Christian organizations that promote lending.
Yeah,
and especially lending for second mortgages.
Yeah.
And the way the ad goes is get out of debt with your house. You're not getting out of debt because what doesn't happen is, so there's a ton of credit card debt, so you take a second mortgage to pay the credit card debt off. Well, then you just use the credit card some more.
Yeah,
that's what happens. It's a horrible cycle.
And it's nothing new. It's
right. It's not. It's
1980, 90s, 2000s, now the 2020s. This is common. We've seen this over and over again. And so the results are people lose their homes. Divorces go rampant.
Through the roof.
They go crazy. You end up with a lot of stress in the home. If you don't have a divorce, it ends up being very stressful. A lot of people lose their savings. And so the results have been pretty bad. And our country gets in a recession usually when that happens. And we're right at that same place again. So instead of giving a fear factor of all this, what's the solution to where people are at right now? What's the solution?
But to me, the solution, it's take a hardcore look at your finances. Own up to everything you're spending. And we both know this because we do budgets and things like that. But when I do an initial review with somebody before they go into a coaching arrangement, they're surprised at how much money they're spending on
small things.
Yeah. $5, $6 a day at Starbucks.
Oh yeah, it's big bucks.
Adds up, right? Yes, so folks have to take a hardcore look at their finances. Maybe they're in a house or a place that, hey, it's too expensive for them to live there. And
so there's the solution is a biblical approach to a biblical worldview when it comes to finances. And people think, wait a second, a biblical worldview. And what's interesting about it, the Bible speaks of 2,350 verses in the Bible, guys, that are on money and material possessions. 16 out of the 38 parables Jesus spoke on, again, on the same subject. So a lot of people kind of go, well, that shouldn't be talked about in the church. Most people, it's not just the church. People don't want to talk about money anywhere. Because usually we're in debt, usually we're stressed, and we just don't need someone preaching to us to say, this is what you need to do. So the first thing I think the solution has to do with is getting your worldview in a better place. Meaning that just to spend, just to, go, hey, I'm going to enjoy this short amount of time and then I'm going to be crushing myself and having my family stressed out, doesn't work.
Right.
So biblically, there's biblical solutions. Jesus always, the scriptures you always say, don't put yourself in debt. He saved us from the debt of sin. And now what we do is put ourselves in. And now I'm going to tell you right now, Tanya and I, in 2008, we were in debt. And because of that, I think that we were vulnerable to what had happened. Okay. After that, we went, we're not doing that. So we've changed our whole philosophy when it comes to money. There's a full budget that we do every 2 weeks, and we view it every 2 weeks. And if there's any changes, we together make the changes. Very much a Financial Peace University mindset, a Dave Ramsey mindset, or a Crown Ministry mindset. But that's biblical. It's not anything new under the sun. It's just this is what you do. Be smart.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun. And when it comes to our finances, our budget, if we know where every dollar is going, we know, we were talking about it here a couple of weeks ago. Your gas budget and food budget with recession is through the roof.
It went from $200 per every 2 weeks to $350 with gas, and food was right around $400, probably about $350 honestly, and now it's almost $500. So there's a big change every 2 weeks when you look at that and go, wow, okay, we got to make some changes. So I put those in the budget areas, but we made some changes, mental changes when it came to food. Trying to reduce what we, some of the junk stuff. Looked at Starbucks and said, this makes no sense. What are we doing this for? One, it wasn't good for me. That we did this a while ago, but it was no good for me. I stopped these. And it was interesting. I just noticed this, that if you spend $6 on a drink every day, 30 days, that's $180. Now, if you have two people doing that, now you're talking $360. And that's a car payment, a small car payment. So those little things add up. And when we have our budget under control, then we can actually, instead of being restrictive, we're now looking at how we line in those items. So Tanya has a clothing allowance in our budget. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She likes clothes. Instead of going, I'm just going to go buy the stuff and we'll pay for it later. No, she has a budget. She's in, and she just uses the money when it comes. I really don't have much of one there because it really doesn't matter much to me.
Yeah, we can get by pretty easily.
Yeah. And so for us right now in the United States, we got to prepare ourselves. Not a doom and gloom thing. Not saying that. It's not. That's not what we're about. Today's my favorite day. I'm breathing. I'm enjoying my life. I'm going to enjoy it. But we can enjoy it without the stresses that really, if you put in a spiritual world, Satan wants us in debt.
Yes.
He wants us in debt because he wants to stress on our lives, to hurt us physically, because stress is hard on the body.
It is.
To wipe us out emotionally, because now we're feeling that, oh gosh, how am I going to get out of this? Feeling the pressure of that. It then also puts pressure on the marriage, and we talked about already, it could destroy marriages, which then puts stress on the kids at home because of the stress that's going on within the adults. So there's a lot of stuff that Satan wants to see happen. And so I'm not looking at Satan under every corner. That's not what we're doing. But we just want to put in a spiritual side. Then we put it into a practical side. And like you said, the practical side is look to see what you're spending.
Yeah.
Right?
And what happens when we don't do a budget is we juggle. I don't know about you. I'm not a very good juggler. And so we have to look at the benefit to a budget. Look at the benefit in ministry if folks would budget and get out of debt.
Well, yeah, it's like a church. If a church is in debt, then it's harder for them to do the ministry that they're called to do, right? But if an individual is out of debt, then they have choices they make instead of the sweating of, oh gosh, can I give to help this or do that, or the tithe to the church, that kind of stuff. Some people sweat over that. Even when Tanya and I were going through our stuff and sold the home and got rid of everything, we still tithes, we still gave, and we still gave to organizations because we committed to them.
Right.
And so we knew that God would bless us, and he did. I'm not talking about you give this, you get 100-fold, that kind of thing. That's not the truth. Yeah. But what it did is it put us in a place with our budget that we went, we can now help. We can help others.
Right.
We need to get rid of this in our budget. What's more valuable to us? And those are the things we focused on, not only in the entertainment side, but our cars.
Yeah.
I've kept my car. Tanya, we paid her car in cash. I've kept my car, and I'll keep it until it dies.
Till the wheels fall off.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not where I want the money to go in our budget.
Right.
I want the money to go to do things with our grandsons, to enjoy time with Tanya. I don't want it sucked into a car. Now that's me. Someone else may love a car and put a lot of money into it. God bless you. Awesome. That's where your entertainment is. Do that. I mean, that's right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with
that. And
if
you're making the money, go buy it. Go do it. Just make sure you're putting yourself in a good place financially, just in case we run into what we're going to be running into here in a little bit here. And that's something that is a concern of mine.
Yeah.
So what we did is our church, we made a commitment the last 3 years to get ourselves completely out of debt. And that's what we've done. We have to do that so we're ready for this that's coming up soon. And how we may be able to help some people along the way.
Right.
Now, we don't just give money to people when they come into our church. Yeah. They go through our financial board. They have to already be involved in our church. Yeah. They have to open up their finances to that board. So a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want the accountability. Well, then we don't help them, right? That financially. Yeah. But we do have a food pantry that people can come to and get food at. But if they want concrete help, then they have to go through the process that we have in the church. You're a financial planner. I know this is what you do for part of your living. So what do you do with people when they first come in? And
when somebody first comes to me, I always take the first session as complimentary because I have to take the time to look at everything, right?
But you're looking at
everything from their weekly spend, their daily spend on Starbucks and things like that. And I'm not going to tell them you got to stop this, you got to stop that. They have to make the decision to do that, or there's no buy-in.
Right.
And I'll send them a spreadsheet. I get the same response every time. The spreadsheet's 6 or 8 pages long. But we a bunch of us got together and said, well, what are we going to put on here? We try to put everything under the sun just to jog people's memories. Most people don't know how many subscriptions they have coming out of their checking account.
That's bad.
Because Hulu charges one thing, Netflix, and that looks good. I want to watch this one series on, I don't know,
So you do an overview of all their spending.
Everything, of all their spending. And then we can sit down and figure out a budget. Most people are getting collection calls. So I help them deal with the collectors. They can be obnoxious.
Right. So then they got to clean up. So the first one would be just to look at the thing. The next is clean up any messes they have.
Right.
And then there's the next thing would be a plan to get rid of the debt.
Yes.
So snowballing the debt.
Yep.
And if you want to know more about that, you could connect with Sam on that kind of stuff. But snowballing the debt. And then the snowballing is paying off the smallest of those first debts, and then take whatever you've been giving towards that debt and add it to the next debt and snowball it and get it hopefully done.
Anybody who's ever rolled a snowball down a hill, which not too many people in Florida have done.
No, not at all. But what happens is that it eventually, over time, and you're not saying that tomorrow you're going to get out of debt. It's going to be years. Yep. But if you commit to this, you get out of debt.
You'll get out of debt,
and then you'll be free from that stress that can ruin all the things we already talked about. The solution is we're Christians, so Jesus Christ teaching found in the Bible, which is what most financial planners will do and talk about.
Exactly.
And they don't even know, a lot of them don't even know that they're doing just biblical things, which I think is funny.
Yep.
Just like lawyers don't know that most of what they are doing on the root of it is all from the Old Testament. And that's hilarious.
It is.
I remember a couple of lawyers in our church when they started reading the Bible and they went, oh my goodness, this is all the stuff. I could have just done this and got my law degree. It was kind of a joke there. But the solution is Jesus and his teachings and the scriptural teachings of finances.
Right.
Again, 2,350 verses in the Bible, money and material possessions, 16 out of 38 parables that Jesus taught on, again, on money and material possessions. Right. So what's the benefit of following these plans? Because a lot of people kind of go, this is a lot of work. Why would I want to do this?
Yeah, and you're right. And most people do say this is a lot of work. On the other hand, the benefit to it is, number one, reduce stress. You know where the money's going. You know how to talk to people who have you in collections. Yeah. There's a whole script you can follow, and most of them will go along with it. There's some negotiation and things like that. The biggest thing is the stress. And now there's communication. That's why when I deal with a couple, or any financial planner or financial coach deals with a couple, you don't deal with one person. You increase the communication, so it increases the strength in the marriage.
Yes.
And once
there's not deception that takes place either, where people are, without even knowing it, I'm spending this over here, you're spending this over here. A lot of times people say, well, we'll have different accounts, and then that separates them. It already has the idea of that we're already separating.
Right.
My parents, who were married 56 years, immediately put their finances together. Where my mom and dad told me, if you're going to join this thing together, join it together. You know, and that's hard. I know that, especially those who have been through divorces, to want to do that. But if we're going to look at marriage in a biblical setting, one man, one woman, if we're looking at a biblical setting, and we're saying we're grafting with each other and coming together, that means everything. And usually, what I find with blended families is that's the hardest thing out of all of it. One is blending the finances together, and the other one is the child rearing. So those two, we won't get into the child rearing, but the blending the family or finances together. But when they do, at least I've seen, because Tanya and I are a blended family, what I've seen is more communication, more connectedness, more trust.
Yeah, there's no suspicion.
Correct.
Of what are you doing, where is it going, and ultimately, working through the plan, you get out of debt.
Yeah.
So
that's a big benefit right there.
Yeah. And you stop and think about all the things that are possible when you get out of debt.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Okay. We're told to leave an inheritance to our children's children. Children.
Sure.
And so you can do that.
Yeah.
You can give wherever.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
You can help organizations everywhere.
Help your favorite organization. There's a reason that giving is a gift.
Yeah.
Spiritual gift.
It's a lot of fun. It's in our DNA. When we get to give something, I think everybody could agree with this. When you give a gift, like a Christmas present, there's something fun about that.
Yes,
when you're in a place of freedom financially and you can go and help, there's a joy in that. We have Operation Christmas Child that's coming up, and I can't wait to put all the boxes I'm going to do together.
And stuff like that.
Obviously, I do the tithe to the church and help with other ministries. Compassion International and other things like that. But it's just fun to give to that kind of stuff because and when someone's in need, you can help somebody and they don't even have to know. You can just send cash their way and just put an envelope without a return thing on it. And you know that they're going to get that.
Yes.
And you're going to hear somebody say, wow, I just had this come in the mail. It's a miracle. Yep. And you can sit there and stay quiet and go, this is awesome.
Yep. And that probably is the number one benefit of getting out of debt, being able to do the things for others that we're supposed to do. Yeah. Well, Dave, we're about out of time.
Yep. So we have this recession that some people don't want to call it a recession. It is.
It's a recession.
The costs are way up. So we're in this recession. When you're in a recession, add stress. We can say today is my favorite day because God is in control of this thing.
Yes. Yep.
And if we follow his principles financially, right?
That's right.
We'll be in a better place. It's one step in that direction. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the whole idea of God has placed us for a purpose, right?
Yes.
And if we understand that he placed us for a purpose, and his word is telling us, okay, I want you to do this. Well, let's not let debt get in the way of that, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's the idea here is problem, the results of the problem, solution, Jesus and his teachings, the benefits, freedom.
Freedom, exactly. So this has been Today is My Favorite Day. If you have questions or issues about your finances, feel free to contact us at the church. This has been Sam McKeown along with David Towner. Live intentionally, be very, very blessed, my friends.
God bless you guys. Take it easy. Woohoo!
Thank you for listening to TIMFD, Today is My Favorite Day. Views, comments, and opinions are those of the host and guest alone, and Dave and Sam are solely responsible for the content of this podcast. TIMFD is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Music is composed and performed by Chuck Vaught. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed.